on your own.
Due to our own culture and a throwaway culture. And I think really people just need to kind of be a bit more creative, look at their portion control, and then if they do have leftovers, make sure they use them.
With food prices rising and budgets squeezed, the need to recycle is greater than ever before. And if we don't change our ways, this waste will continue to cost us financially and environmentally. Alex Rossi, Sky News.
Now, Milton Keynes is to soon be the first place in the country where you can travel in a driverless car, an automated pod. The government's announced plans for 20 autonomous pods to operate in the town by 2015. Sky's Siobhan Robbins explains.
Bumper to bumper, blood pressure rising. Traffic jams are a daily headache for most drivers. So just imagine this. Jumping into one of these pods, whizzing to the town centre in special lanes without the traffic, maybe reading a newspaper as you travel. There's just one catch. There's no driver. It may sound futuristic, but by 2015, this will be reality in Milton Keynes, with the government putting 1.5 million towards these driverless cars.
So you just get into a driverless car, is that what you're saying?
That's a bit total recall.
If it was safe, then yeah, I'd use one.
If they came to my house, I'd use one. The buses are a bit naff, so...
Initially, 20 pods will run between the station and the centre of Milton Keynes. That will rise to 100 by 2017. They'll travel at speeds of around 12 miles an hour and will drive on the pavement, using sensors to avoid crashing into people.
Auto driving.
Google has already introduced driverless cars to California. They've driven more than 400,000 miles without a major crash. Proof it's claimed the UK's pods can also be safe.
I think longer term, having the ability to switch on or off autonomous vehicles whilst we do other things, such as the emails, such as taking phone calls, video calls, reading the paper, or even getting prepared for a meeting, actual fact, it gives an individual much more value for their time.
Letting go of the wheel is a huge step for many, but if they take off, it's hoped these pods will cut traffic, pollution and hopefully driver stress. Siobhan Robbins, Sky News.
So let's talk about this. Will that technology improve our lives or be too dangerous? Let's talk to Paul Priestman. He's a transport designer, and Sean O'Grady as well, a former motoring correspondent, both are live in our Westminster studio. Sean, if I can talk to you first, is this going to be, do you think, the new motoring standard?
Well, I think we're going to see more and more of it. Already, if you buy some of the more upmarket vehicles that are on sale, if you can afford it, you can get a car that's got what they call adaptive cruise control. So if you're on the motorway, you can fix the speed, or you can also fix the distance between you and the car in front, and if somebody cuts it, it will brake for you. There are sensors which can detect whether you're sort of dropping off and you're wandering out of your lane, and there may be some software soon that can recognise road signs. So a lot of the technology is there. Of course, we've had a revolution with satellite navigation. Everyone's pretty much got one of those in their car telling you which way to drive. So if you put all those technologies together, you're not very far away from the future. I mean, not much more than 100 years ago, the maximum speed on a British road was 14 miles an hour, I think, and a man with a red flag had to walk in front of every single motor vehicle. So we've made enormous progress in that time, and we can make more progress in the next few years, and it will be very, very exciting and very interesting to see. But as I say, a lot of the technology is already there, and with things like sat-navs, we already take it for granted, really.
Paul, you're a designer. Is this a designer's dream, getting in right at the beginning and creating something which is going to be an everyday object's next generation, if you like?
Yeah, it is, yeah. I mean, I'm really fully behind this new technology that's coming through, and it's great to see. It's almost like sort of trying to beat the world record of high speed or something, where everybody's trying to make the first driverless car a commercial success. The thing I would like to see, though, is how this is going to translate into some mass transit. It's something that I do as a designer, is designing of public transport, and I'd like to see some of this technology being taken into that arena. My concern is that the development of the personal car, the personal transport, is just going to add to more traffic congestion. I mean, there are some amazing technologies out there as apps. Now you can see when the bus is going to turn up your bus stop before you turn up. You don't have to wait for it. There are car share schemes. There are taxis that you can actually ask to come and pick you up. You know where they are. So the technology is developing in lots of other areas. And I think it's sort of making what we've got work really well and maximising the infrastructure that exists.
Sean, that's an interesting point, isn't it? We're told this will lower congestion, but Paul makes the point that it may not do that. And interesting that they're choosing Milton Keynes as the area where they're going to try this out. That was designed with transport in mind on a grid system, the American spaced-out town design, rather than a lot of the more organically developed towns that we've actually got with tight corners and old cottages on corners and so on that might not suit this idea as well.
No, you're absolutely right. I mean, there are many man-made and other obstacles that can get in the way of these sort of experiments working. I think the first question is whether the thing would actually stop if a dog runs out in front of you or a child runs out in front of you, which is perhaps more disturbing. And the second thing is really whether the authorities and drivers themselves can be confident, have got the sufficient degree of confidence in all this technology that the brakes really will come on or the steering wheel really will move. For them to work. But the other thing I think which will be a real challenge is that I think if it's all very well if you can find out when a bus is coming, but you're still going to be on a bus. And the point about cars is it's your own space, you're in control. If you feel as though the traffic's really heavy on this road and you think you know a shortcut, you can take it, you've got charge of it and all the rest of it. So that's a real, that sense of freedom and control, even if it's illusory in many times, I'm afraid, but that sort of feeling of control, you're in charge, you've got the wheel, that's something that's very, very obviously appealing to drivers, and I think a lot of them won't be very happy about giving that up for an experience that is, you know, a bit like sitting on a train or a bus or something.
Paul, just one last comment from you, if I may. What happened to the obvious answer to the problem of congestion, the flying car in design terms? What's happened to that idea?
Well, I think there are lots of developments going on in that area. I think, again, congestion is one of the problems there, and also how you'd manage that. I mean, just going back to the past comment, you know, have we gone forward? The first car went at 14 miles an hour. I think the average speed in a city for a car is 10 miles an hour now. I think we're going backwards in many respects, and we have to find a solution. Traffic congestion in every city around the world is a major problem, and we have to try and apply this new technology to transporting more people en masse in a pleasant way, and that's where design comes into it, to try and appeal to people to get out of their cars and use public transport.
Paul Priestman and Sean O'Grady, thank you both very much indeed. Let me just bring you some breaking news we're receiving from police this evening here at Sky News Centre. 2 boys arrested for a serious sexual assault at the Epsom Derby last year have been arrested. They're teenage boys. They're both aged 16 and from the Kent area, and they've been arrested on suspicion of rape. Police are telling us they were bailed today while the investigation continues. This incident is alleged to have taken place at around 4 o'clock on Saturday, the 4th of June last year, when a 15-year-old girl was sexually assaulted in a field close to the racecourse. So 2 boys arrested in